Intelligent Systems' Fire Emblem franchise is known for its plethora of playable women characters alongside the similarly extensive male cast. Even if you've only ever played one of the games, in my case, it's the Blazing Blade, you're sure to find at least one character that either fascinates or connects with you in some way, given how nuanced or distinctive they all tend to be. While Blazing Blade's Ninian isn't one of my favorite women characters, or really characters in general, I do find it unfortunate that she receives an alarming amount of criticism among the fandom. Here we have one of the perfect games to explore the various ways characterization and character development can legitimately manifest. It just so happens that the one woman who is more in tune with her feminine side compared to the others is invalidated because she doesn't wield a sword and isn't outspoken like them, rendering her, apparently, dull, feeble, and too emotional to do anything about her position in the story. If there's no set standard for what can make a man character compelling, then why do we insist on arbitrary rules for the conception of his women peers? More importantly, why do we value certain traditionally masculine attributes when thinking about this, instead of recognizing the strengths of other human qualities any character can realistically be written with? I think the problem is that when audiences get to witness more variety in their media, anything that so much as alludes to a trope seems like a step back. Although, I suspect that the rhetoric of mainstream media has a lot to do with this as well. People may naturally be confused as to what constitutes inclusivity when we're told this is important, and yet are encouraged to praise only a small percentage of stories for supposedly accomplishing it. The good news is that we are free to either agree, disagree, or seek out whatever stories we find convincing ourselves. Fire Emblem isn't popular outside the gaming world, but the internet makes it easy for readers to access ideas and opinions about content they've never heard of and wish they had sooner, or are glad they could find information because of how little coverage it gets. What I can tell you about Blazing Blade in particular is that the heroes share a common trait: the desire to help their comrades however they can. Ninian is reserved and unassuming, but not to the point where she can't use her skills as a dancer to grant allies additional resistance, defense, and the ability to move again for one turn. Players may find it worthwhile to include her in the party, since, if played correctly, she can build supports, fix strategies, and carry enough items so that the others can have more room in their inventory. And if you think plopping her in the middle of the battlefield is a risk, she can avoid most attacks coming her way, so you don't have to worry about healing her. Not everyone can be a fighter. Otherwise, who's going to care for them? Ninian is also vital story-wise. In fact, she and her brother Nils are essentially the reason this game has a plot in the first place. They are half-dragons, curious about their birthplace and world beyond their current home. While they are adventurous, however, their kind isn't always received well by humans. On top of that, their corrupted father is on a pursuit to use them to recruit other dragons and conquer the land. Ninian has every right to keep her heritage a secret and manage her powers, lest they are captured or killed, even though it means she's endangering her allies. We must have conflict, right? Otherwise, why should we be invested? Just like how every other character has vulnerabilities they either need to work with or overcome, Ninian learns to curb her guilt and angst by making friends. Depending on the player's choices, she can also bond closely with Hawkeye, Florina, or her love interest, Eliwood. It doesn't stop at maintaining her civility and addressing allies by their titles either. Being receptive to and actively pursuing these relationships helps her become resolute in supporting their cause, to the point where she's willing to kill fellow dragons employed by her father and sacrifice herself to ensure the others don't get hurt. I know she gets resurrected once, regardless of the ending that follows. But if Adam's resurrection in Disney's Beauty and the Beast doesn't ruin his arc, or Megara's resurrection in Disney's Hercules ruins hers, I don't think Ninian's is tainted either. Especially when you consider she'll either pass away or return to an unfulfilling life in her homeworld anyways. She doesn't do any of this to prove a point, or because she enjoys it. She's trying to do the right thing for humanity's sake. And someone who's as passive as the general fandom makes her out to be might not necessarily come to such difficult decisions, especially without being fully aware of the consequences. Given the burden she bears, Ninian eventually understands when to accept help and that she, too, deserves happiness. The latter is most explicitly addressed in her ending with Eliwood if their support is leveled to the max. Even if her kind cannot survive beyond their homeworld for a long period of time, she can choose to live blissfully with him and bear a child before her premature death. It's not about whether we agree with her choice, it's about what feelings and memories she would rather be left with when she moves on to the great beyond. Even though Ninian is different, though if anything, she actually balances out the more eccentric and idealistic types with her grounded demeanor, she should still be able to enjoy the same rights and beauties everyone else gets to. Not to mention some respect from Fire Emblem fans.